So I may have bit off more than I could chew with this one. In this video, I'll be riding the entire length of Ocean Parkway here on Long Island on a bicycle for the first time in a decade. And why? For fancy beach drinks. Hi everybody, I'm Oliver the Ricketts, and welcome to this year's Booze Tour, second annual. And by second annual, I mean this is the second time I've done this in 3 years. In that video, I sat down with my friend Will, aka Will Holmes, aka William John Patrick Thomas Holmes, aka Paddy, to rank which hard seltzer is the best bang for your buck.
Yo, what kind of minerals are we talking here?
Sprite. And we had so much fun making that video.
If this is anything like a Mike's Hard
it's a
lemonade.
Wait,
that we decided to do a booze tour every year. And then immediately missed the 2 following years. But anyway, folks, we're back for another booze tour video. But this one is maybe a little bit more niche. Here's an aerial shot of Ocean Parkway, known to Long Islanders like myself as the road that leads to all the beaches. I've spent countless summer days at the beaches along this highway, enjoying the sun, the waves, the sand, and of course, the beach huts. Along Ocean Parkway, there are, off the top of my head, 10 beaches all within one highway stretch of each other. Gilgo, West Gilgo, Cedar, Overlook, Toe Bay, Captree, which is only sort of a beach, Jones, Oak, Coast Guard Cove, and Sore Thumb. And of these beaches, there are really only 6 honest-to-God beach bars. And only 4 of these are actually worth going to. And these are them. Bars are a staple of a true Long Island summer, just like Ocean Parkway itself. And so one drunken night, while brainstorming ways to follow up the seltzer video, which of course seems like a Herculean task, Paddy had an idea, an ambitious idea, a messy idea. Paddy had an ambitious and messy idea, and I think it made his liver grow 3 sizes that day. What if we were to travel to all of the beach bars on Ocean Parkway, the most Long Island highway that there is, and have 1 or 2 Long Island-esque cocktails at each bar? Now obviously you couldn't drive it, but there was another way. Conveniently, a bike trail runs between all of these beaches and their respective beach bars. But we did have one other problem.
I haven't ridden a bike in since I was 15, except for earlier this week I rode maybe 6 miles around the neighborhood and I was winded after the first 2. Today's ride is 10 and at somebody else's pace, so I hope Paddy is really bad at riding bikes.
And so listen, was I maybe biting off more than I could chew with this one? Almost definitely. But at the time I felt good. Notably, I've spent the last several years of my life getting progressively more and more out of shape. It happens to all of us. But recently I've made a change. I hit the gym now, bro. I go 7 days a week and I do an absolutely adequate job when I'm there. And I'm seeing results. In all seriousness, I did recently lose a ton of weight and I did most of it through cardio. And so I was pretty confident that on a bicycle, I'd be able to keep up with Paddy until I saw Paddy's bike. I mean, look at this thing. It's light, speedy, notably no training wheels. Although it was originally found in the garbage, this bike has carried Paddy to Montauk from the South Shore twice. That's a 90-mile trip. And then the piece to end all speculation about the quality of Paddy's bike riding capabilities? His bike has a bell. This sweet ride is road ready for a capable and advanced bike rider. And so despite my optimistic early statements, it seems that Paddy is probably actually pretty good at biking. But this was the least of the coming trouble, because also coming with us on this bike ride was our friend Pat.
I'm Pat, I'm here to ride.
Which is an acronym for pedaling all the time.
Here to ride fast, ride hard.
And this stoked some anxiety, because although I wanted Pat and Paddy, which is also an acronym for pretty much always downing drinks yes, while riding a bike, to ride at their own pace and enjoy the ride. Realistically, I was there to drink, and to drink slow. But the even more pressing issue here was not even being able to keep up, but being able to ride at all. As I mentioned earlier, I am 25 years old right now, and I stopped riding my bike when I was 15. So I'm far from what you would call a cyclist. In fact, I don't even own a bike, and I couldn't even if I wanted to. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, which I share with my wonderful wife, Brittany. And so, with 2 adults sharing 2 rooms and a hallway kitchen, and maybe 3 rooms if you include the bathroom, there is just no room in this apartment for an adult's bicycle. Some people have suggested hanging the bike on the wall. These people have never lived with a woman before. Fortunately, I had the perfect bicycle connect. The perfect plug for a bicycle that could keep up with the sweet ride that Paddy would be saddled on. His name? DAD, which is also an acronym for Dude's Always Dialed In. Dialed in, by the way, is cyclist lingo for when a bike is set up nicely and everything works just right. And I know this refers more to the bike and not the rider, but Google bicycle terms starting with B to make acronyms with. There are strangely much fewer than you would think there are. Anyways, my father happens to be a pretty serious bicycle rider. He's ridden his bicycle across the country twice, and once after his 60th birthday. He actually documented the whole trip on YouTube for all the gearheads to see. And gearheads is another bicycle term. Google it. And for this reason, the house that I grew up in was always crawling with bicycles. It was stuffed to the brim with bikes. There are bicycles in the garage. There are bicycles on the porch. There are bicycles in the sheds outside, in the inside hallway. There were bicycles in the kitchen.
Que pasa?
And so my parents' house is the getting place for cool bicycles. And the old man did not let me down. Behold, mountain bike. Multiple sets of gears, great for any terrain, perfect for hills, trails, valleys, and even very flat beach paths. This bad boy can do it all. I'd love to tell you the manufacturer and model of this bike, but I don't know it, and neither does my father who owns the bike. So we'll suffice it to say that it's black and it's good. This bike is not without its fair share of problems though. Mainly the weight. It's a mountain bike for mountain trails. Keeping up was still going to be an issue because Paddy and Pat both had street bikes. They're lighter, they're a little faster, some would even say zippier. And that brings us to the next big decision that needs to be made. What were we going to drink along this trail? Because we needed a beverage that was A, easy enough to make that we could get it at any bar along the bike trail, B, just complicated enough that there was room for error so that we could actually rate them against each other, and C, it would be nice if our Long Island bike trail video actually featured cocktails that were specific to Long Island. Just a thought. And so we initially landed on rocket fuels.
Liftoff of the Delta rocket carrying GLAST, a gamma ray telescope searching for unseen physics in the stars of the galaxies.
Which was a terrible idea. If you don't know, a rocket fuel is a drink that is heavily associated with the South Shore of Long Island and specifically Fire Island. Here's what you need to make them. Coconut cream, pineapple juice, amaretto, and bitters. Then stick it in a blender full of ice, which will be run on high for 20 seconds. Then pour it into a tall glass. It's topped with rum, a cherry, and orange slices. If you're gonna do it right, you also put a floater on there. It's basically a better, fancier pina colada, but creamier. While this cocktail is absolutely delicious and reasonably easy to make for any decent bartender, it is also very heavy. It's like drinking an alcoholic milkshake. Have you ever tried running down the street after drinking a milkshake? You know, as a kid or even as an adult? I've done both. It hurts. It hurts your tummy. Now imagine doing that, but add on alcohol and a bike. But there was one other Long Island drink contender. Nestled in the middle of town in Ocean Beach, Fire Island, rests the greatest bar of all time. Hauser's. It's a wonderful place where tons of Long Islanders have had the best night of their lives. From the napkins covering the floor, the disgusting bathrooms, they don't care, to the extensive outdoors area and the incredible playlist. This little Fire Island bar is a true one of a kind. But their greatest contribution to Long Island culture? The invention of the Zippy cooler. So to recap, Bacardi Limon, club soda, splash of cranberry juice, splash of sour. An easier drink that every bar should be able to make with these very common bar ingredients. And they're nice and light. There should be no reason that we are not able to drink these and then ride our bikes. Other than, you know, drunkenness. And so the Zippy was our drink. We met first at the Gilgo Beach Inn, located on the fabulous Gilgo Beach, famous for the 1964 Surf Championship, and for no other reason.
Well, explosive new developments in the case against the accused Gilgo Beach serial killer.
Other than that, great little beach. Nobody was murdered here.
In all seriousness, Gilgo is actually a wonderful beach. It's where my wife and I have countless times met our friends and spent our summer weekend mornings. This is a great place to fly a kite or windsurf. Check out some cool beach birds. It's a nice place. But beyond my personal fondness and memories of this beach, it's also a beloved Long Island surfing destination and a favorite beach for the locals here. I will also point out that nobody was actually murdered on Gilgo Beach, nor were the victims left there found on the beach itself, but rather in Gilgo State Park as a whole. And this entire chapter of Gilgo's history has painted the beach to outsiders as a scary or controversial place. I just want to say it's not either of those things. And while now this is something that has to be mentioned, that's all I have to say about it. Speaking of Gilgo's history, the Gilgo Beach Inn first served beachgoers in 1935, and since then has opened on the first day and closed on the last day of every summer. Now the Gilgo Beach website claims this beach hut opens at 8 a.m. every day during the season, which is why it was so confusing when Paddy, Pat, and I arrived at 8:30 a.m. on the morning of our ride to see it was closed. What did we come here for?
And we got an umbrella up, so it's probably open.
I still don't see those doors open, so until I see that. But anyway.
If the Gilgo Beach Inn wasn't open to draw first blood, was there even a point to any of this? And so we waited. And waited. And waited. And while we waited, I had a profound thought. Sitting on the beach in the morning and watching the sun come up is a nice thing to do. I wish I did it more. What a hot take. Anyway, we waited until 10:30 a.m. when the doors finally slid open, the umbrellas unfurled, and we could have our first Zippy of the day at 10:30 a.m. on a weekday. My hands were shaking, I was so excited. Heading to the counter, I enjoyed the Polaroid photos on the wall, this handsome Jimmy Buffett-esque beer bird, and these ridiculously dope shirts. They slap. One other thing that I really like about the Gilgo Beach Inn is their collection of rocks that they keep behind the bar that you can put down on your money when you pay for a drink as a paperweight because they're cash only. And what was particularly interesting about these Zippies is that they weren't carbonated. They knew exactly what we were talking about when we ordered this drink, but they had their own little spin on it. Instead of club soda, they used water.
What? A man of your legendary prowess drinking rain.
Cheers.
Cheers. Can you imagine this was rocket fuels though?
Yeah.
Is that stuff like any good? I can't rate the Zippy yet.
Why can't you rate the Zippy yet?
I haven't had any other Zippies.
No carbonation. I kind of missed that like 7-Up, like lemon lime kind of thing going on here. But I do like the more cranberry. So, I mean, all around refreshing. I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Pat's right, it's lacking carbonation. I'll give this a 7.2.
Sick. And due to peer pressure, I'll go 7.0.
And after these Zippies, we were off. On the bike trail, headed to Cedar Beach, stop 2. And I unfortunately had no idea how difficult this first stretch was going to be, for me personally. This first initial stretch between Gilgo and Cedar Beach is only 6 minutes by car, but trust me, on bicycle, it's infinitely longer. The ride is only 4.4 miles, but for someone who just jumped on a bike for the first time in a decade,
turns out riding a bike makes you really tired.
May as well have been 20. I'm struggling. I'm out of breath. I'm mentally celebrating every time I see the mile mark on the road, telling me I'm 1 closer to 5 miles. Rationalizing how much I have to go. And I don't think Pat and Paddy had this same experience. I don't know how they lost me so fast. It's as if their legs were made for pedaling, or maybe they're simply just more aerodynamic than me. In any case, I finally arrived at Cedar Beach feeling significantly humbled, and if nothing else, ready for a drink and a break. But what I didn't know was the crushing blow that was about to come.
How are we doing so far?
Great. I need a Zippy cooler. I can't get one.
Solid push, you know. Salt Shack dropping the ball right now. Seriously.
Much like Gilgo Beach, we had overestimated how early this beach bar would be open on a weekday in September. We had to push on and circle back. We couldn't afford to wait another hour for this beach bar to open. This would tank the entire day. At this point, we had been to 2 beaches, had exactly 1 Zippy, and it wasn't even made the traditional way. But the unpleasant news didn't stop there, because the next stop on our bike trail was Captree. This beach is 12 minutes away from Gilgo by car alone. A grand total distance of 10.9 miles via the bike trail. And for those of you keeping up at home, this means I had 6.5 miles left to finish that ride. And did I mention the outrageous headwind we were facing?
I'll start that way first.
What do you mean? Start that way?
Hey, you always want tailwind on your way home.
Yeah.
Trust me. You want to be halfway through your trip, and just like the last X amount of miles you're doing is like all headwinds. It's brutal.
See, maybe to some of you slimmer, more aerodynamic bike riders, this would be a non-issue, especially the crowd that keeps those pointy helmets. But look at me. Do I look aerodynamic or like my head would fit in a pointy helmet? Do I look like wind just flows by me? Absolutely not. I'm taking the most amount of wind possible due to my greater surface area, and I fought this wind all the way to Captree. And so I arrived at Captree to find Pat and Paddy waiting for me. Dismounted, helmets off, bikes chained. They'd had time to sit here, but they insisted that they weren't waiting long. Some would say they'd exaggerated the shortness of the wait time to be nice. I'd call it a lie. But regardless, I'd made it. I was out of breath, dripping with sweat, and I desperately needed a drink, which we would get at Captree's Tiki Joe's, the best bar name on this beach crawl. But our strife was far from over, because approaching the bar and asking for a Zippy at Tiki Joe's, we were greeted with the most outrageous response that you could get from a Long Island bartender. What's that? But upon explaining what a Zippy was, the bartender assured us that it could be made on the premises, with one stipulation: they didn't have Bacardi Limon. No matter, we told them that regular tequila would be just as good. But the second disappointment was incoming as the bartender realized that this bar did not stock cranberry juice. We'd have to go without. And so we replaced it with pineapple juice. And once the pineapple juice was added, guess what else they didn't stock at this bar? If you guess club soda, that would be correct. So not only are we now drinking flat pineapple juice and tequila, I'm in shock and disbelief that any bar doesn't have club soda. How can you have a bar and not be able to make tequila soda or booze soda of any kind? That's outrageous.
Cedar Beach only opens at noon apparently. It's only 11:48 right now. So we went on to Captree, where they do not have Bacardi Limon, cranberry, or seltzer, the 3 key ingredients to a Zippy cooler.
So what do you have?
Rum and pineapple juice and lemon, which actually isn't that bad, but
Once again, no Zippy cooler ingredients, so I just defaulted to the rum punch on the menu.
which they also didn't have the ingredients for.
Which they didn't have the ingredients for. And she's like, do you want grenadine? And I look at the sign, and the sign says, fruit juice with grenadine. We're just figuring it out right now.
But what I will give Captree is that it's a wonderful place to just sit out and have a drink, especially on an end of summer day. A nice mix of biker types and boater types inhabit this place, many of whom are either camping in the parking lot or docking a multi-decker boat in the bay.
Yeah, no, so like the one time I went out, had a Idaho breakfast at Glenn's to like curb the hangover, and then got on a rough boat, and then there was like some old salty guys like chumming the water, and then I just laid sideways.
Where we sat to have our non-zippy drinks was nothing short of picturesque. And so although we'd now stopped at 3 bars, had only 2 drinks, and absolutely no traditional zippies so far, I would still categorize Captree as a win.
How are we feeling? What's your rating?
0 out of 0. This is not a Zippy cooler.
How does it hold up as its own kind of drink?
I've had worse. 4 out of 10.
I'm like, I'm a little partial to the rum punch over at the GBI. Once again, this is we're supposed to get Zippies, but good color of a Zippy. I'm gonna say that it's a 7, and you know what? Like 0.5 of that is because of the rum floater.
And upon leaving, the day definitely took a turn for the better, because we had what the cyclists call a tailwind. And what a difference it made on the way back to Cedar Beach. Because all of a sudden, this 6-mile ride that seemed impossible on the way there was now easy, and dare I say, fun. I was zipping right along, admiring all the beauty that litters this bike trail. Trees, water, sun, it's all very lovely. I like it. All of a sudden, I was the fastest man alive. Nobody could slow my roll. Not even these cops under the bridge. But that's beside the point. And so next we headed to Overlook Beach, which is appropriately home of the Overlook Beach Club. And at this point, we've lost Pat.
Speedy Capolini had to continue on with only 1 Zippy under his belt for the day.
Supposed to get Zippy. It was too speedy for us. You had to keep going. Couldn't keep stopping. Which is a shame, because this was a really nice stop.
All right, Paddy, where are we?
We're at the Overlook Beach Club. Hopefully, Zippy number 2 today. We shall see.
In my opinion, this is the one that looks the most like my idea of a standard beach bar. In fact, this whole beach looks like what you might think of if you were to think of a Long Island beach. This could be a shot from Jaws. And in fact, I'm sure this beach has looked even more picturesque in the past. But since I've been coming here, we've lost about 3/4 of this beach to beach erosion, and that's sad.
Right now we're in Jaws.
Beautiful Amity Island. Amity, as you know, means friendship.
And Overlook, as you know, means eroded beach.
Also very true.
But what wasn't sad was the bartender's ability to make a Zippy cooler. This was the first bar we had been to that both had every ingredient included in the drink and actually made a Zippy the traditional way. We found a spot and we enjoyed our first actual Zippy of the day.
Zippy number 2.
Number 2, drink number 3.
How many stops?
1. Yeah, this is technically our 4th. Cheers.
Ding. Way to go, Overlook. Ooh.
That's got some carbonation too.
It's an actual Zippy this time. We actually have a carbonated drink. So far, Overlook's got the best Zippy on Ocean Parkway.
Yeah, so far.
Wow, imagine having a job right now.
A what?
Schmucks.
Things could be worse.
Sweet. Oh, here's the guy from Jaws.
Where?
You know, the dude. We all know about you, Chief. You don't go in the water.
It's a bad hat, Harry.
Some bad hat, Harry.
Nice thing about doing this on, what day is it today? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
I didn't see one person I know yet.
Yeah, right? Saying it right now, though. What was my rating for Gilgo?
7.5.
It's like an 8.4.
I'm going with the full 9.5.
It's a real, actual Zippy cooler. Look at it, it's pink. There's bubbles in it.
Yeah, 8.4 might be a little low, actually.
It gets extra points, I think, for being the first of the day.
True, very true.
It's delicious, though.
I needed it.
You ever think about how, like, we're sitting here saying that this drink was invented at Hauser's, but they gotta be drinking this, like, other places. What are they calling it?
I don't know. A rum and cranberry.
We're the first ones to put rum, cranberry, and lemon in a cup.
I mean,
Call it a zip zip.
everybody's got their own invention, right?
Well, nothing you've invented has not been thought of before. That's like, we came in late in the game.
Yeah.
Someone's made this exact video before, guaranteed.
You think so?
Maybe not this exact one, but somebody's been, let me get on a bike and order all of the rum and lemon in my town.
And with that, we were off with a new spring in our step, wind in our sails, oil in our bike chain, whatever you want to say. We were off and it was nice. Off to Cedar Beach. Again, only this time they'd be open.
It's noon, right? Is it noon? Alright, it's past noon. We're open, we're in business.
Now, the most important thing to know about Cedar Beach is that it is the cowboy capital of Long Island. This place has been built up to be the most commercial local beach on the entire South Shore. Because Cedar Beach is home of the Salt Shack, the most popular and probably accessible beach hangout on all of Ocean Parkway. First of all, look at how big it is in here. There's 3 bars if you include the bar cart outside. 2 different food counters. You can get hot dogs at 3 different locations inside of the Salt Shack. Outside, you'll also find signs notifying you that this beach does not allow colors because of the high motorcycle gang clientele. But that doesn't detract from the families and little kid vibe here as well. It really is the TGI Fridays of Ocean Parkway beach bars. And on any given night during the summer, you could come here and hear live music. The only downside being that it somehow always devolves into country night, and people go off about it. Look at all these cowboys dancing. How do they know the next step? What's going on here? Nobody's leading them. Just a bunch of cowboys enjoying life, hearing songs about try that in a small town, even though they live in the most affluent county in the country. Possibly the world. However, like most places that have been built up to be generally pleasing to everybody, Salt Shack isn't cool. It doesn't really have character. Like I said, think of TGI Fridays or Chili's. As we know, these are fine establishments if you want to have serviceable, digestible freezer food. But you aren't getting gourmet top shelf cuts of meat at these places. And I think that's a good metaphor for this bar. Metaphor? Simile? Going to the Salt Shack is like going to Chili's, but there's sand. But you can still have fun with that. You just have to manage expectations. And so we headed to the bar, paid too much for 2 Zippies, and found ourselves a little spot to enjoy them.
Cool.
Cheers.
Ding.
This is the final installment.
One more at Gilgo.
Kind of need it at this point. Bottoms up, my friends. It's almost too sweet. Let me mix it up here, get a second impression. Overlook is definitely our champ.
My expectations were probably the lowest for Salt Shack because the most people come here. I'm pretty happy with a 3, to be honest with you.
No, I'll give it at least a 6.
They're making things as quickly and as cheaply as they can.
Although as of right now, there's 10 people maybe.
10 people, 1 pineapple, and 1 dancing seltzer can.
Yeah, this is definitely the lowest rated one for sure.
It's lower than Captree?
Well,
Captree doesn't really count.
Disqualified.
Do you think the pineapple will come over here and pose with us like we're in a picture?
He might.
I'm a little intimidated by him though.
So am I.
There we go.
I always like the Overlook Beach Club the best of the mass-produced ones.
Gilgo Beach Inn is a different kind of thing because it is just like a true beach hut.
But Overlook it's quaint, it's small.
And this is where like boomers and bike gangs go.
Exactly. Overlook's definitely the winner.
This is last.
No, Captree's last.
Well, Captree's disqualified.
Oh, let's move again. That looks weird.
And just like that, the ride was done. We had hit all of our beach bars, and we were headed back to our cars at Gilgo Beach. On the ride, I reflected about how overaccomplished I felt in this moment. While the day started difficult, by the end, I'd had an absolute blast. With 2.5, generously, Zippies over 4 bars and 20-ish miles, the job was done, the data was in, and I had kept up. And to cap it all off, we had 1 more Zippy at the Gilgo Beach Inn, the best bar and the best beach on Ocean Parkway.
Some retrospection. It was definitely more difficult than I thought, but also not as hard as I was expecting. Do I look like it?